Welcome to our video on operations with integers, positive and negative numbers. We're going to do a quick review of how we work with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with integers from your pre-algebra experience. First, starting with the basic addition with integers. When we add integers, there's really two cases to consider. We might have the same sign, two positives and two negatives. Or we'll have different signs, one positive and one negative. Each of those cases we're going to handle in a slightly different format. If the integers have the same sign, say they're both negative, what we have is a lot of negatives. So we're going to add the numbers together and keep the sign from the problem. So for example, we're familiar with 5 plus 3. Those are both positive. We can add those together. 5 plus 3 is 8. And because those are both positive to begin with, we know our answer also has to be positive. It works exactly the same if both numbers are negative. If we have negative 4 plus negative 2, we have a lot more negatives. 4 and 2 is 6. And we keep the sign from the problem, so we end up with negative 6. Contrast this process with if we have different signs, one positive and one negative. We're going to ask ourselves which one is bigger. And ignoring the positive or negative, which number is bigger and how much bigger is it? How far apart are these numbers? So we've got a couple examples here. First, negative 4 plus 7. Notice the positives, the 7 is bigger than the 4. So that bigger one keeps the sign. And how much bigger is 7 than 4? We've got 7. We back up 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. The answer's positive 3. We're going to do the same process every single problem. Which one's bigger? That's the sign. How much bigger? That's the answer. So with 5 and negative 8, this time the negative is bigger because 8 is bigger than 5. How much bigger? 8 minus 5 is 3. Negative 6 plus 1. Here the negative is bigger because the 6 is bigger than 1. How much bigger? 6 minus 1 is 5. How about 5 and negative 2? Here the 5, the positive, is bigger. How much bigger? 5 minus 2 is 3. So when we're adding integers, we consider if they have the same sign, we add the numbers and keep the sign. If they have different signs, we ask which sign is bigger and how much bigger is that number. Once we're good with adding integers, subtracting integers comes pretty quickly from that, because in reality, we never subtract. We always add. What I mean by that is we're going to change every subtraction problem to an addition problem by adding the opposite, making two changes right next to each other. So here we have several combinations of 5 and 3 with positives and negatives, and we're subtracting with all of them. Wherever we see a subtraction sign, we're going to change it to a positive, add, and we'll take the opposite of the next number, so we'll make that add negative 3. Similar on the second example, we see the subtraction, we add the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. Third example, whenever we see subtraction, we add the opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. Fourth example, instead of subtracting, we are going to add the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. It's always two changes, making every problem into an addition problem. And we know how to add. We did that on the last slide. 5 and negative 3, the positive is bigger. 5 minus 3 is 2. Positive 5 plus 3, same sign. Keep the sign and add to get 8. Negative 5 plus a positive 3. Here the negative is bigger. 5 minus 3 is 2. And negative 5 plus negative 3, same sign, so we keep the sign. And 5 and 3 is 8. So every subtraction problem, change to an addition problem by adding the opposite. Now, multiplication and division works exactly the same way. Basically, we're asking ourselves, do they have the same sign or different? If they have the same sign, the answer is always positive. If they have different signs, the answer is always negative. So got a bunch of examples here. First, 5 times negative 2. Those are different signs. One positive, one negative. So our answer is negative. 5 times 2 is 10. The second example, negative 5 times negative 2. They're both negative. They both have the same sign, so it's always positive. 5 times 2 is 10. Second example, negative 5 times 2. A negative times a positive. Different signs. The answer is negative. 10. And we know positive times a positive is a positive. Same sign. 10. Division works exactly the same way. We're going to divide 12 and 4 with the different combinations of positive and negative. But again, different signs. A positive and a negative gives us a negative 3. Same signs. A negative and a negative gives us a positive 3. Different signs. A negative and a positive give us a negative 3. And two positives, same sign, gives us a positive 3. So with multiplication and division, same sign, the answer is positive. Different signs, the answer is negative. Probably the most challenging part of working with these positives and negatives is keeping the rules for multiplication and division separate from the rules for addition and subtraction. Because while they seem similar, they will get you in trouble if you get them mixed up. Now I want to make one quick note about dividing by 0. We know if 0 divided by anything is 0. 0 divided by negative 4. If I've got nothing to divide by negative 4 parts, you end up with 0. That's okay. Where we get into trouble is if we take anything and divide it by 0. If we have the division by 0 at the end, we cannot do that. This is undefined. And the reason is division really means repeated subtraction. If we do 6 divided by 3, we get the answer 2. Because what that means is we're going to take 6 and subtract 3 until we get down to 0. We subtracted 3 twice, 2 times, to get down to 0. That's what division means. How many times can I subtract this number until I get to 0? The problem is if I want to do 6 divided by 0, we're going to do 6 minus 0 is 6, minus 0 is 6, minus 0 is 6, minus 0 is 6. You're never going to get down to 0. You can't keep subtracting 0. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work. We cannot divide by 0 because you'll never get to an answer. So we say anything divided by 0 is always undefined. We cannot do that. So no, do not divide by 0 ever. The world will implode. No, and if you think about no, we can't do it. N divided by 0, no, where that O is the 0. That might help you remember 0 cannot be in the denominator. We cannot divide by 0. Tiny little note, mostly though I want to focus this lesson on the operations with integers, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Take a look at the homework assignment. Let your instructor know if you have questions. Hopefully you found this video helpful.